Welcome, guys, to the SBN Network podcast. I'm your host, Steff, and with me is...
I'm Scott.
Yes.
And I'm Scott. We know how to do intros now.
This is a podcast where we take some deep dives into some wonderful artists and kind of look at their account in a different way, which is always a little bit positive, a little awesome, and you guys can enjoy their accounts with us.
And now that we've gotten more professional, I try not to say any dumb stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I try to at least always end on a good note. Silent too, like it's gonna hurt something. There you go. Both of you can sip.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of a tradition, so I prepare myself.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I'm so boring today because I just have water now. I'm done with all my tea and kombucha, so it's not even like something interesting.
Well,
and now I've got a cough drop in my mouth and everything.
Well, you're supposed to do the intro too.
Oh, I'm supposed to do the intro. Oh, yeah. Hi, everybody. How's everyone doing? Guys, welcome to the show. We have somebody on this show who I have been dying to chat with for so long. You all should know him by now. If you don't, go follow him. Lord of Thane, Angus. He is one of the coolest universe builders I know of personally. I've been following him since the beginning of my journey into toy photography, and he has constantly inspired me to think about the ideas of storytelling, the ideas of creating your own, imaginary world makes it sound like, oh, like kids, but like your own, like just space to get out of your own brain for a while. You honestly, not to blow a bunch of smoke, but you have been a huge inspiration to my account this throughout my entire year and plus of doing this. So thank you for being on the show. Really, really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us. So
thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
And, I just have to give that back right away because I think you were one of my first followers as well. Because I started a year and a couple of weeks ago myself.
Yeah.
And I your feedback, especially on some of my Coruscant themes, has really kept me going. Because
good.
I didn't start this for toy photography. I just started it due to my daughter.
Yeah.
And then I discovered this beautiful whole new world of photography and the community. And as I sometimes wrote in my captions, I had this feeling of Chewie, we're home right away, and it never stopped. And I'm really having so much fun chatting with all the people and getting to know so many great artists and world builders, as you said. Yeah, it's just so much.
I think you like toy photography in general. I really love. I love it, but what you do for me personally takes me back to truly what I used to love the most about playing with figures. And I mean, God bless my poor parents. I used to set up my room with like a whole Star Wars scene. It would be set up for weeks. I mean, weeks. Like they were so good to just let me do it. It was my room. I could do what I wanted. But I would have figures set up. I would have ideas. I would set up places for them to live, and I would come up with these crazy stories that would just go on and on and on. I would find garbage. I would find pieces of things. I would make things out of cardboard. I used to do that constantly. I would take pieces of cardboard and fold them and make little boxes and stuff. And I think that is what is so special about your account is it's like you do this. It's what I would have loved to do when I was younger if I had had the resources. And that's what we do now. And we've talked about that with other people on the show with collecting. But I think the thing I would like to focus on with you is you now as an adult and a person of the world who lives their life and has a job and income. You can you can create some of the things that we never got to do when we were younger. It didn't either had the skill or the things we needed. And I for this decided that the time had come. This was my second attempt at a diorama. I had my first diorama, like, I think it was, no joke, maybe like 3 weeks into toy photography. It wasn't very long at all. And I hadn't touched it since. And this week, Steff knows I was staying up later than I should have been. I was coming up with really weird things. I was finding pieces of trash at work and all kinds of odds and ends. But I finally started it. And I will tell you, because of the way you build, I think I'm going to keep building upon this. I don't want it to be done. I don't want it to be completed. Like, I'm going to add things, and I think that's what's really cool about what you do. And with that, I want to ask you, what made you start, like, creating worlds? Like, why did you go in that direction?
Well,
It's just, that's the fascinating thing to me.
well, what you just said sounded like my parents describing me back when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I had my own room for building up my sceneries back then, and I was lucky enough that my parents, they ran a business where you could order the stuff. So we had a lot of cardboard, a lot
Yeah.
of I had unlimited supply of cardboard,
Yeah.
and I ever since I can remember, I tried to recreate scenes either from the movies or scenes from my head. And I think I spent all my pocket money on having an actual carpenter do a wooden sort of horse base when I was 8. And yeah, I always tried to recreate that. And I was probably, maybe, I can imagine you might have been the same, a sort of a strange kid, which now
Yeah.
helps me with my collection, because I just built up the scene, and then I didn't go boom and go crazy.
No.
It all happened in my mind, and it would sit there for ages, weeks, until I rearranged something. And
Yes.
yeah, so I still have most of my childhood toys in quite pristine condition, because I never played like you were probably supposed to play with them.
No,
And
I never got aggressive. Like, I never fought, like, made them punch each other and stuff like that. It was more about, like you said, it was, you would create this place, this idea, and just kind of let that place exist, and you'd be, let your brain do all the fun stuff. So.
I to come back to your question, I always was a huge fan of various toy lines, but nothing ever grabbed me like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Which yeah, I don't know, I could probably say it's like a religion.
Yeah.
And then I was lucky enough that the void where we couldn't get any figures before Power of the Force came back was
Yeah.
exactly in the time where I was a teenager and going out to university, so I didn't have that toys on my mind anyway. And
Yep.
just about when I started my first job, paying my first income, Power of the Force hit sales here in Germany. So I went to the shop and said, "Well, Star Wars figures," and they had like $1 each. Give
Yep.
them all to me.
Such
And
good timing.
and then, I don't know, maybe to justify to my now wife why I was suddenly starting to buy toys again, I then did my very first diorama, well, like
Mm-hmm.
grown-up diorama, using a huge tank, which you usually use for if you have reptiles or something.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Building a Tatooine scene with real plants, like what do you call them? The stingy plants that grow in the desert.
The cactus?
Cactus, yeah.
Mhm.
With cactus in them, and I had that displayed in my first own apartment, right in the middle of the living room. So my wife knew what she was going into,
Absolutely.
and then yeah, from there it just took off. I always wanted to do the big Death Star hangar. There was a dream since I was a kid. And when then they finally released the huge scaled Falcon,
Yep.
that kind of triggered it. I said, okay, now I have to do it. And we built our house then, and I got my own room where I'm sitting in right now, and I sort of built this storage cupboard, Star Warsy style, and on top of that there was so much room. And so I started with the hangar, and it took off from there. Now I've got the complete Death Star, and yeah.
It's so awesome, and the way you capture them is so fun. The lights and it really brings you in, and don't get me wrong, you do other things too. I don't want people to just like, I know Steff really loves like your studies of like the creatures and stuff like that, which I think is great too, but I can't help it. I obsess so much over your dioramas. And I just love how these cities have just built on themselves. Like, you just keep going, and there's different doorways and openings and signs and stuff like that. And it's really, really neat. Do you have, this is super specific and techie, but do you have experience with like electrical and lighting and stuff like that? Because you do a lot of that kind of stuff. No, it's just something you kind of got into.
Not at all.
Like
And I really do if you talk to real diorama builders, they'll go, what?
Yeah.
All my lighting comes from cheap LED strips that you get, like, I don't know, 50 meters for $10.
That's what I did. Yay.
And that's it. And then sometimes I just take duct tape to hide lights where I don't want them, but they are there.
Yep.
And I totally, I can't do anything with, like, okay, I put one LED here and then I'll wire it, and then
Okay.
for me.
That's funny, because that was something I wanted to ask you, because that's literally what I did. Like, for my sign, the little sign over their head to the entrance, I folded the LED lights in half and then drilled a hole through the back of the styrofoam and just poked it in and stuffed it up in there. And that was the only thing I could do, because I've never really messed with, like, I know people who are really into dollhouse lighting and stuff, which I think is just, that's such an interesting art form in and of itself. But like, I've seen people do that, but I was like, I don't think I'm ready to tackle this yet. Like, I don't think I'm ready to do individual like wires and soldering this to that. Like, no, that's too much.
One of the many things that I've got, like, a project in my mind for once I retire or whenever I'll find the time for that. I'd really love to be also able to do some lighting in, for example, the Falcon or something.
Yeah.
Like some people, they really, it looks like a prop from the movie. Light does so much. It's the quintessence of making things look real.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And I wish I was better at that, but I never had the time. So I used the cheap trick.
Yeah.
Which
Absolutely.
makes me run out of power supplies. I can't light all my dioramas at the same time because there's just not enough.
Yep.
It's funny that you say cheap tricks too, because those are going to turn into actual skills later on for other people, because you've been mastering these little tiny techniques of your own that maybe people who don't ever want to look at getting that technical with the lights will use them, and like they'll listen to this and be like, oh, that's a really good idea. And duct taping over the ones you don't want to see is perfect, because for somebody who even can use a little bit of Photoshop, it's perfect. You can just like take them out or do whatever you need to do. It's very, very, very cool. I went like the opposite way as a kid almost too. I wasn't like violent, but my siblings were kind of adventurous. So we always used to take everything, cardboard boxes, everything outside, but we were more like He-Man obsessed fantasy kind of figures. Whereas the Star Wars movies were kind of in the backdrop. We went like the opposite scale of where we went with our action figures. We wanted to play in the grass and the trees, which kind of reflects now where I want to take my photos. It's really cool that you took your childhood love and you've gone all the way through life with it and been able to really enjoy it for this long. A property that's been around for that entire time frame. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think that's another reason why I connected with you so like hard, because Star Wars, like, as much as I've enjoyed other things throughout my life, Star Wars has always kind of been there. And even though I left it for a while in my adulthood, I came back to it. And so I think that's why when I saw you, and you really focus on the 3 3/4 inch, which is like I will tell you, you are probably the biggest reason why I do occasionally buy 3 3/4 inch figures. Even though like I tend to get the 6-inch scale, I do pick them up periodically. Like if I see vintage collection, or like, I mean, I have all the Power of the Force ones and stuff, and my son actually like plays with them a little bit now,
Mhm.
from when I was younger. But it's like your use of that scale, I think is phenomenal. I think it's so good, and I think your dioramas just like match the scale perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
It's such your scenes look so like I don't have the space necessarily to make 6-inch scale scenes look as vast as your 3 3/4 scale scenes do, and that's
Nobody
what's
has.
so awesome. Yeah,
No.
you'd have to have like a separate house just to do that in, and I think that's what's so great about you choosing that scale to focus on, is it allows you to make these big street paths with like signs hanging over and wires and suspension things. It's so cool.
It's all back in the shelf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really doesn't need that much space, and
No.
that's why on SWTVC they always call it the world building scale, which
Mm-hmm.
really it is.
Mm-hmm.
Just imagine, I don't know, a hangar, a Death Star hangar in 6 inch. You could use your garage for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
collect the odd 6 inch figure, and I collect the movie realization figures, and I have all the little die-cast Tamashi. No, what are they? Komitakara from
Mm-hmm.
Japan, which are really nice. But yeah, three, well, 1/18th scale is just
Yeah.
yeah, it's always been there. It's a nostalgic scale, and
Mm-hmm.
Totally get it.
you probably know Empire Tollworks
Mm-hmm.
and Chris and his Rock God Station, and
Oh, amazing.
yeah, that's just it, it's huge, but it's so fitting. And just imagine trying to do something like that in any of the other scales,
Can't.
even though the
Yeah.
figures, of course, are much more posable and all. While, of course, the last PVC figures, they really are neat. Yeah, sometimes they look better than their 6 inch
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
tonal.
I agree. The I have I know I've shown people, like I've taken a few photos of it, but that Night of Ren, that one that had come out, and I love that thing so much.
Amazing. Yeah.
It looks so good. It looks like significantly better than the 6-inch counterpart Night of Ren, and I'm like,
And
I
so
love
much
that.
better than in the movies.
I know. It looks so
Like,
amazing.
okay, I really want to know about this guy now.
I know. Just because of
Yeah.
this toy, it makes me interested in it. I know. I absolutely agree. The I'm curious. I'm curious. What is so I know you've done your level 1973 and stuff like that. Like that's kind of been your focus. Do you have anything else in your pipeline that you've been thinking about like venturing into? Like is there something like a dial that you've been just like I really want to try this, but you just haven't played with it yet?
Well, there's a lot of projects, and I've played with all of them in my mind. So there's none I haven't played with yet. I'm only limited by space, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The Death Star diorama still needs the tractor beam thingy that Obi-Wan disables to be complete.
Yep.
And I'm thinking of building a throne room for that as well.
Ooh.
Also, it's of course the other Death Star, but that would be fine. I have the Sarlacc ready for my Sarlacc pit diorama to go with the barge, which will be equally huge as
Yep.
the. All I have to do is finally go and get the correct colored sand, and then I can assemble that.
Yep.
And the one thing I'm pondering right now, because the Razor Crest is coming, and at my US shipping address, I have the huge Slave 1, if
Yep.
you can still call it like that,
Yeah.
waiting for me, and I'll need place for that. So I'm thinking of doing a completely lit Bespin landing platform with
Yeah.
the entrance
Ooh.
part and moving doorway to
Oh.
be stuck on the wall, so I can put the ships on there.
Oh, so cool.
So, yeah, but there's been so much Star Wars content recently that was really amazing. Like the Mandalorian, this is really visually so amazing that
I agree.
I had to the forge I just had to venture away from my projects and do
Yeah.
that overnight, more or less, because I
I
really
get
loved
that.
it. And yeah, there's a lot of inspiration going on, especially with the animals as well. I'm thinking of sort of they're all in they have their own separate shelf there, and I would like to do like a space zoo where they all have their little cages, but in their environment, and
Yes.
you could also have like other figures walking through there, and like a day at the park or a day at the zoo, and that's
Yes.
something. Yeah, as I said, once
So awesome.
I'll be retired and have all the time of
All
the
the
world.
time. Yep.
I like for me when I used to watch it because I think I was so into like fantasy stuff for so long. When I watched Star Wars, the world itself having different creatures and having all that stuff was like the coolest part.
Yeah.
Like the government guards, you have the Tusken Raiders, like all these really cool alien things. I
Yeah.
was really into Star Trek too, so it was like, oh my gosh, these races are so amazing. So when I see your profiles come up and you really give them their chance to shine too, just the like the littlest creatures that might, it kind of adds to your world having those pieces show up later on because you have background to them and kind of more information. So it's just like a zoo sounds amazing to me. That just like made my mind like go crazy. The Sarlacc pit is like killer because like it's gonna be so sweet in like in
Yeah.
frame and everything. But I'm very excited about that. But I just
Yeah.
have to say, like, the whole thing is that there's a whole world there. It's not just Boba Fett walking around in empty space. There's so much other things happening. So it's cool that you have so much detail to everything. It's insane. There's my 2 cents. My lack of Star Wars
Absolutely.
knowledge. One
No.
cent there.
Perfect. And
Let's-
that's another thing. Like, Hasbro in the past, they really gave us some background creatures, and they gave us the odd creature. But
Yeah.
I'm afraid the 3.75 scale will not get the love it used to have anytime soon anymore. But the community out there and the 3D printers and
Yeah.
really
Yes.
amazing artists that are out there, they really do. I don't know if you've seen my Tala Beast thing,
Yeah.
and, the Siren. I mean, that would never sell. No toy company would ever do that. But I'm so happy to have gotten that. And there's so many people out there that you can also find thanks to Instagram that do amazing stuff. And you either print it yourself or they print it for you. And yeah, I need to improve my face painting skills for that.
I haven't even tried, so.
Whenever I get anything, I just send it to poor MJ. I'm like, MJ, paint
make him
this.
paint it, yeah.
make it better. This is the part I'm going to bring up the slideshow. I know Scott's going to have questions as we go along. He's so ready for this. So the first slide I'm going to bring it up is just your first shot on your feed, and then the most recent one that I pulled went from this date. So I'm sure you noticed I went down quite a ways and I was like liking stuff, and I was like, he's gonna notice that I'm stalking for a little bit, but it'll be okay.
That always happens. Like you end up blowing up somebody's feed while you're going through. I love it. This still. I always enjoy this slide, looking at where you started and where you're at now and stuff. And I always have fun seeing that. And you were already like, yeah, you go back to this, seeing this universe building, like early on. Troopers are just like hanging out there. It's so cool. And you always had that light. You've always done this cool thing with the lighting, the mixed colored lighting, the directional lighting. That has been consistent through your entire page, which I think is so cool. It's become such a staple of your look. Like obviously like the dio building and the feel and the stories are, you know, prominent, and that's the heavy duty part. But the way that you light the characters within the world has been such a specific look that you give, that I was playing around with that quite a lot, because I was like trying to do some different colors and different directions, and some light coming from this way while there's also light coming from over here, and it looks so good. It always looks it looks like what I would expect Coruscant to look like underground, like on the lower levels. Like every single time I see one of these photos, I'm like, yes, this is it. This is what it would look like if I was there right now. And I think that's just so neat. The neon, and then you've got like, you know, some warm lights here and there coming in from, you know, different people's doorways. It's great. It's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, that's also the the picture that started me, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, it's my first one, and I always wanted to do something like, I don't know, cyberpunk or yeah, lower levels of Coruscant. And when I planned this and started building it when COVID hit first last year during the first lockdown,
Mhm.
um, I hadn't seen the lost footage of the 1313, I think it's called, and the series that Lucasfilm planned yet,
Yeah.
but it kind of looks like that. And
Yeah.
the funny thing, however, while when I sort of found out, okay, taking toy photos is actually a thing, and there's other people, and I'm not the only crazy guy out there who would enjoy that.
Absolutely not.
I started playing around with the light a lot more, and I have all these little small LED lamps that I can sort of hide behind a trooper to give it a highlight or whatever. But this very first picture, that's just how it looks. I didn't do anything. It's just how the diorama looks like.
Yeah.
And Luke is still standing there waiting for his, I don't know, burrito or whatever he's gonna
Yeah,
get
he's been
from
waiting there for a bit. Yeah.
Space burritos. That sounds
Space
amazing.
burrito.
burrito.
Hmm.
The yeah, and I love that. Like, I don't know if that'll show up in the slide at all, but yeah, you have these little specific areas. Like, there is the little space food service place, whatever we're gonna call it, and you don't worry too much about like explaining necessarily what it is. Like, you just let the story kind of go, and you just let it happen. You let the people look at it and read the ideas and what's going on there. And that was why I wanted to go through this whole big explanation of, like, what this place was. And because we forget, like, to get super nerdy about Star Wars for a second, yeah, Coruscant is literally a city planet. And I think a lot of the time Star Wars fans, I think we forget, like, we think of it as like, oh, it's like the capital, it's New York City. It's like, no, it's like the entire earth, but like a city. Like, there's so much going on there. There's stuff that, like, we don't know about. There's stuff that the Empire didn't know about. And I think that's what's really fun, is by choosing to create like a level in there, it's like you can just make this its own little neighborhood that things just happen and life goes the way it's going to go while the rest of the universe it's doing its thing. And yeah, you're going to have canon characters coming in and out, but then you're going to have other characters who don't exist anywhere else in the Star Wars universe. And yeah, I think that's what's really, really fun about your stories and your ideas. And that's why I wanted to make sure it was, when I placed my bar, it had to be on that level, just because it's like, where else would it be? Let's be real.
And yeah, I was pretty happy when I was thinking about how to name it, that 1973 is one of the deeper levels, but not too deep. It would be like 1313. So you can find some scum and villainy, but there's not total anarchy and chaos.
Uh-huh.
So everything sort of can happen there. But I also have this very small custom steel bug, or what it's called, that actually eats metals. And that in canon lives, I don't know, level 5,000 or something, where there's no life possible anymore.
Yeah.
And
Oh, man.
sort of made its way up and is starting to chew on some of the wiring there.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
So cool. Well, so Scott wants to get I made the next two slides his picks for like the areas.
Yeah.
So
So are you at all, I don't know if you do stuff like I do, like, are you a bit of like a junk collector? Do you look for things that look kind of spacey, or do you typically make everything from scratch? Like, you just find the material
My
and
wife totally hates me for going through the garbage before
Okay, good.
we actually take it out. And
yes.
I've got huge storage boxes. It's all by now the whole family knows. And for example, these, which I use as generators all the time,
Mm-hmm.
there's just cookie trays, and I get them from my mother-in-law, and then just paint them up. And yeah, the bar back there, which is heavily inspired, of course, by what's his name? Dex Steiner.
Dex, yep.
But I think the windows, they are actually glasses from old sunglasses. And all the round parts are just it's a broken cup we had, and yeah, it's built out of scratch, a lot of it. And then I use foam core,
Yeah.
architect style foam core,
Yeah.
which it's got cardboard on both sides, and it has no problems when you spray paint it. It doesn't just evaporate.
Yeah.
And I use that for stability and to do the parts that really, to fill it up. And also the small things like the door and all that, I just carve them out by hand.
Have you reached out to any, like, have you worked with any 3D printers or people who 3D print? Have you done any of your own 3D printing? Or have you pretty much just done the
Well,
handmade?
all the dioramas I have now were before 3D printing.
Okay.
But for the forge, for example, I found this amazing forge 3D printed by Abel's 3D Designs on Instagram, and I think he's from the UK, and I sort of built my forge around his actual forge thing.
Okay.
And I was so amazed that then I had to get my own 3D printer.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know his handle is Space Hut, and he's very
Yes.
into TVD as well. And he does these awesome 3D designs. I don't know. There was a new Mando episode streaming, and the next day he was up with the okay, this is my playset.
That's
is how
amazing.
it could look like, and he printed some of them on his own printer as well. And I said, okay, that's the next level. That's where it's probably gonna take. But at the same time, due to environmental reasons, I'm not going to print, I don't know, a starship, or I'm not going to print
get that.
a whole hangar bay or whatever. Just the little props is what really makes it. You have this vent, or you have this little machine or whatever, and these are incredibly hard, especially getting older and older and needing glasses now. And in that scale, you can't build them in that detail. So you just print them and paint them up and stick them on your foam core wall, and it looks amazing.
That's so funny you say the thing about like environmental reasons and stuff, because it is interesting. Like that has been a big part of why I've enjoyed using garbage, is because I feel like I'm giving it like a second life.
Yep.
And like most of the foam that was in the dial that I made for this was just garbage from work. It was like packaging material and stuff that I took. And like the door for my dio, it was it was a shelf for putting soda cans in, like a soda dispenser type thing. It was just like shelves, and I just chopped it up and turned it into a door. So it's like, you feel like you're, I'm not saying I'm like, oh, I'm making a huge impact, but it feels good to like give it a second chance, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, you take that stuff that would have just ended up in a landfill, and you make it something fun. And I think there's something really cool about that.
Like if you might want to call it creative challenge, you see something, you say, okay, let's get an interesting form. How could I use that? What could this be? Maybe it's I don't know, a drink dispenser, or maybe it's an airlock, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you just add some bits and pieces, some paint and the right light, and suddenly you say, wow, it's going to be thrown away, and now it lives on forever as a, I don't know, this airlock thing or whatever.
Yeah. And it's so funny. Once you just start like gluing pieces of plastic together, and then you put like primer on it, all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that looks good. Yeah. It's so funny, because at first you're like, I don't know where this is going. This is getting weird. And then you put a little like coat on it. You're like, oh, all right. Yeah, that's right. That's cool. I like this. So that's really neat.
Very cool.
Yeah. And speaking of 3D printing, the latest pic you pulled up before, Steff, the Johnny 5. I printed that myself on my 3D printer.
The figure?
That's awesome.
It's
wow.
It's a CG Trader STL I bought, which is actually for, I think, 1/6 scale or something. And I scaled it down and tried to get it into my 18th scale.
Amazing.
losing the movability because it's just too flimsy and too small. All
Yeah.
the joints didn't work, so I had to glue them, but still it looks quite okay. And I find it very amazing how much detail you can actually print with a so the 400 or 350 bucks for my printer, which is not a lot of money
Yeah.
compared to where they are coming from. And I think that once I have some time for that, I will definitely get into 3D designing myself as well,
Yeah.
because that's obviously what you want to do. You have your own idea, and then you have this corner where something has to
Yeah.
fit in, and then you want to design the 3D that has to go in there.
Absolutely.
And not, okay, now how it works is you find those amazing doorways or whatever, you print them, and then you build around them.
Yeah.
And I want to proceed from there. I'm not going to reach Space Hut's master class, because I think he's doing it professionally, but something like that would be
Yeah.
really nice.
Very cool.
This is what I'm talking about with this scale. It it's it's about the figures, it's about the characters and whatnot, but it's about everything. It's all of it. And how do you make your signs? I'm curious. I'm just really curious.
It's very cheap, actually. I have this on the side of the diorama. I have this it looks like huge piping, and I built in black lights in there. So when I turn the light on, everything is shown covered with black light. So these are just neon pink or neon green sheets. I painted them with this a special color that lights up very bright when shown on with UV light, neon colors. And then I have this friend who has got this paper plotter. So he cut out the signs for me from cardboard, and so they are like a negative, and I just glued them on the green and pink and whatever cardboard. And once it's the black light shines on them, they just look like they are lit from within.
That makes so much sense, and that is brilliant. I love that. All right, I got to play with the black light now.
By total chance, it also worked with the. I just printed out I think it's like some concept art for Coruscant Underworld, and I just printed it out with a regular printer and stuck it on the back wall, and the signs that are printed, not really built by me, I also give them a little neon color, and once the black light shines on that, it sort of magically turns alive. They
all match, yeah.
Yeah, so they all match. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. This is the stuff that has just always intrigued me. You just create this whole world, like you said, even just the posing and whatnot. It doesn't matter with what you're doing. You don't need dynamic posing. And these figures are just supposed to be existing in this space, and it looks phenomenal. And there's Luke again waiting for his burrito.
There's Luke still waiting. Yeah, and there's by the way, Steff, that's Dr. Afra standing.
I was gonna say, we were talking about this earlier.
And I think she's the only. She's the only really movable, posable figure in the whole pick. All the others are 5-point articulation figures.
Yeah.
Oh. I want the little puppy things.
They're great.
I don't think they're too cuddly, though.
No. It's the best kind.
I think they're called Corellian hounds or something like that.
Yep, Corellian hounds.
I just called them puppies.
So angry.
All right, I picked two of mine that I find because I found your feed because Scott was talking so much about it when we first started. I think this is even when we first started talking about doing this show at all. Yeah. He's like, I need you to check out this page and your page, and he was just going on, and he's like, I've been following him forever. I think you're gonna love it. I want him on the show, and I'm like, okay, we'll go get it there. But because I like an outdoor photo, I enjoyed all these going back through your feed and kind of seeing your journey outside as well. So
your range is unbelievable. Like
Mhm.
that's wild. Like I love the juxtaposition that you just did, Steph. Like going from what we just saw before, this intense underworld of just madness and villainy and imperial rule, to these guys hanging out on a forest planet, like just in the sun. Like that's just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Framed so well. Like just like look at their placement just together. I love that there's like a little bit of light off of the mushroom on the top there.
Mhm.
And like it scales so well with them because it feels like a planet where there might just be these like
Pollution.
masses just hanging over. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
so cool. So cool.
Do you have this like near your house, or is this like a vacation kind of photo?
No, this is, I don't know, maybe 300 meters away from my home. I have the huge advantage to live in a little village outside of Munich, and right at the end of the village, like in the
Mhm.
last street. And when I look outside my window, all I see is grass and the woods. And
Mhm.
so I just grab some figures and
Take a
head
walk.
out, take a walk. And yeah, I really enjoy outdoor photography even more than the indoor stuff, because
Yeah.
it's more challenging and more I don't know, rewarding maybe, if it turns out good, because
Mhm.
obviously the dioramas are built in scale, so yeah, it
Yeah.
should work out. But if you walk outside, there's so much that could deter from giving the feeling, okay, this works, this is an actual word, but where the figures are moving and doing their stuff. And it would be enough if there would be like one leaf of the wrong
Yep.
size somewhere in the
Mhm.
picture, and you go, oh, okay, yeah, he's just taking his toys there. So I really love the challenge of the outdoor. Um, Especially when you sort of have a plan. I
Mhm.
want to take this picture today, and then you run around. I know this doesn't work. This is not the right place.
Yeah.
There's no light here. So
There's
yeah, but
too much light here.
there's too
Yeah.
much light, exactly.
The have you tried, I'm just curious, and forgive me because maybe I've seen it and I didn't even realize I've seen it. Do you mess around at all with other like figures from other like properties and stuff like that to kind of like use as like side characters and stuff in the Star Wars world? Do you typically just focus on Star Wars characters?
I I do typically just focus on Star Wars
Yeah.
characters, basically because I don't have too many other figures
Yeah.
Mhm.
anymore. I gave a lot of my figures, all my GI Joe figures, I gave to Chris from Empire Toy Works, because I
Yeah.
said, okay, he'll know what to do with them,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
I want to focus on my Star Wars collecting.
Yeah.
Um, but we had this fun little challenge with the German toy collector community just a couple of weeks ago, where we said, what if? And so I took some pictures with out of Star Wars universe characters, and I bring in the odd droid, because droids, I love droids,
Oh,
and
heck yeah.
sometimes if you look closely in the background, there'll be a droid from another franchise, or maybe even a Lego or Playmobil droid. Just
Yeah.
Ooh.
yeah. But no, basically it's all about Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, you blend them well when you do, because I was gonna say I hadn't really ever noticed anything from other properties. So like when you do it, you obviously are very good about like just kind of sneaking them in. So I love that.
I did I did a sort of a low-key variant custom in the 1/18th scale for the
Yeah.
What If challenge, and he picks all these Star Wars apocalypses to hide, and that was a lot of fun. They always turned out to be the wrong catastrophe to hide at.
That's Loki's MO though. He's always in the wrong place at the wrong time.
It is.
The next one is just
Oh.
one of the creatures profiles. Is the one of these shots I didn't get a frame of it, is when you had like each one in different scale of the same kind of creature and you kind of went through them. it's just really cool to see because you don't see it very often. Like there's a lot of any new Star Wars figure that's out, you're gonna see 100 photos sometimes when they pop up. But it's kind of nice to be able to go back and see nostalgic, see a collection in different scales, see the prop or the little guy that came with that figure in a picture. So it's kind of interesting, and I also like the color on this because I'm a cool palette person.
Yes.
But it's like,
This is definitely Steff's palette right here. This is
So I just had to throw it in there because of my two
great.
pulls.
Yeah, I love the Star Wars creatures. They, as you said before, they are such a huge part of the universe that has been created, that there is something lurking in every shadow, and something, you know, could bite your head off any minute whenever you are on any of those planets. And I always was a huge fan of nature documentaries, and David Attenborough is my hero.
Oh gosh,
and, my thing with photography for the last 15 years wasn't toy photography. It was taking pictures of insects, macro pictures of insects.
Oh, very cool.
And so they are getting too small for my eyesight out in the wild.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot about using available light to take pictures of very small things. And I'm trying to use that on my take on the Star Wars creatures. And I'm sort of trying to get together all kinds of creatures from all over the galaxy for my shoe, as I mentioned before.
Yeah.
And sort of, you know, what would David Attenborough see if he was traveling the Star Wars galaxy and trying to show the beasts out there to an interested audience? And
that is so cool.
There.
What got you into insect photography? What made you start doing that?
That I finally had the money to buy the macro lenses I needed for that.
And you had just wanted for a while.
Yeah, insects. It's out of a love for insects, which I think is probably the same source as my love for alien design and sci-fi and all that. Just imagine those little bugs being 2 meters or 3 meters high and walking around. They could easily be, I don't know, you just bought Starship Troopers or whatever. They could easily be the villains. Or so I was fascinated. I remember, I don't know, being 3 or 4 years old and turning around this huge stone in my grandmother's garden, and there was this colony of ants, and they were going about the business, and it all looked so organized. And I think that was the moment that caught me. And even though it's got nothing to do with what I do professionally, I have like 3 meters of bookshelf on insects, and I can sort of bore anyone to death with trivia on insects. And then I traveled to so many places, and I saw so many beautiful bugs, and I tried to take pictures with my camera, and then look, this little blue speckled blurb there, that's a beetle. And it never worked. And then I finally earned enough money to buy a decent macro lens, and it opened up a whole new world.
Good.
And,
that's really cool. That's really cool.
My mom went to school. She's a zoologist, basically. So she went to school and was going to be a vet. And she has this thing, and I've always known about it for birds. So we've had like pigeons and peacocks and pheasants and like all this stuff for my whole entire life. And I didn't realize that owning pigeons was not a common pet or an animal that you would have at your home until like you talk about it. So it's neat to hear other people have like these things. Like we would go out into the forest with binoculars, and my mom would make me know what birds are flying around and like different things in that respect. So it's really cool that you had that kind of love as a kid too. That's neat. Very cool. Okay.
And the humor. I love that. There's something like really. This is almost pop art, but in like a really cool way. Like, it's really cool because you look at it and it feels like something you would see framed in somebody's like home, but it's Star Wars characters and a statue. And it's that I could picture like people sitting around and like over analyzing this way too long. Like I could picture like my friends sitting around like drinking and just like discussing this and like trying to figure out what does it mean, and like I just like I have that image in my head. I love the effort you put into the stormtroopers
posing.
poses. Like that is I don't know.
Don't give me any credit for that. It's basically it's a set of 3 stages that do the hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil thing,
Yeah.
and they're about the what was 1/6 scale, so they're not movable at all. They just they just have that pose. I speak no evil, I see no evil, and there's a third
Gosh.
one.
It just
And they are
sits.
in my office. They are on my back, behind my back, on a shelf in my office, as well as that piece of art that one of my clients gave to me. And I use them every once in a while. I use them, for example, to go, what the hell is he doing now? When I
Yeah.
posted my first 1/6 scale figure, and
gosh.
starting the whole new world away from the 18th scale. So yeah, I get a lot of credit for posing those figures, which I don't deserve because I didn't pose them. They just
But
come like.
well, then if we don't
You
look at it
turned 'em.
posing, yeah, but look at placement. I mean, that's the thing. Like it's beyond posing. Everything is just positioned exactly how I would imagine wanting to position all of this. Like it's everything is as solid can be. Like the use of the negative space through the center and off to the top right, and the dark statue against the the bright background, and then the stormtroopers against the brighter background because they tend to blend a little bit more. It's just I don't know. I think this is fantastic. I love this photo. Like I really do.
For
Like
somebody that spends a lot of time with extras, signs, and details and everything,
Yeah.
having this white background pop up on your feed, it was not jarring in a bad way. I was just like, I have to take
Yeah.
this photo. I have to figure out
Yeah.
what's going on with this and
it's
see
such
what's happening.
fantastic minimalism
Yeah.
for somebody who has these elaborate sets. This is just 3 things and a blank background. Like it's super cool. I agree
Yeah.
with Steff on that one.
How long have you had the Stormtrooper figures? How long have you owned them?
Like those,
Mhm.
3 or 4 years now.
I was gonna say it was probably an instant purchase too. You saw those, you were like,
Yeah,
yes.
I
saw
need
them and I
this.
said, okay, I need them. They are amazing. Yeah.
Very
And
cool.
they are something that finally can go into my office. Not only my private space, but the anyone who comes into my office can see them and can relate to them in some kind of way.
Yeah.
And even if it's not the Star Wars reasons, you go, you funny, you've got your own 3 monkeys version, and yeah.
Yeah. I believe if anybody can have little ceramic cats in their office, and you can have stormtroopers, it'll be
Yeah,
okay. Because
absolutely.
that's how.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, with the creatures, man, unbelievable. Where did you get this from?
That's another one of the great guys I met on Instagram. He's called Uzai Customs.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're really familiar with the history of Star Wars bootlegs, but Uzai Customs is a Turkish company that, well, not customs. Uzai was a Turkish company that did Star Wars bootlegs, which were so hilarious, yet so good that they are their own field of collecting by now. And this guy, he just I think he just bought the name Uzai and restarted when 3D printing got a thing. And you can get all kinds of figures and props and stuff from him if you're patient, because it takes about 6 to 9 months from ordering till he finally delivers. And he did this Mudhorn thing, and he's pretty fast. when it comes to offering, you know, it's like a week after the episode aired or something, you could order it, but it takes a while until
Yeah.
it's in.
Oh, I love that. I love that, and I love that they played on the Turkish ripoffs from back in the day. I
Yeah,
love those.
he's situated in Turkey, I think.
Yeah.
He's got the stuff.
Do you have any of those? Like, do you have any of the bootlegs?
I don't have any Uzai original
Yeah,
bootleg.
me
I
neither.
have all the figures that he has been doing.
That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Like, he's got like 4 Gamorrean guards, and yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
Cool stuff, definitely.
Very cool.
For a reasonable price as well. Because, for example, the Boba Fett throne I got from him. And,
Oh, yeah.
it came painted for, I think it would be like $25 or something.
What?
Oh,
While
wow.
at the same time I saw offers for $80-$90
Yeah.
unpainted. So yeah, it
Very
takes
reasonable.
a while, but it's worth the wait.
Yeah.
People need to learn to be more patient.
He must be like mass producing them too. He must do like waves. So every
Yeah.
month, that's why it takes a while
Yeah.
because he has to like do it and then paint it.
Probably
and
gets like the orders, then decides how many he's gonna like make.
In my head, I think he's like, he and his 5 friends have the printers, and then they ask the grandmothers to paint it or something like that.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly. Just-
romantic.
yeah, something really fun. They bring him upstairs. Everybody's drinking tea
Yeah.
and like.
yeah, I was gonna
painting.
say they're all drinking like they're having their breakfast and hanging out and painting Boba Fett thrones. It's really good. This is, I think, is the last slide, and I love
So,
it.
again, humor, like throwing that
Mhm.
in there, like that's. I think it's really important. It's something I've had to try to do a bit this year on my page, is trying to incorporate some humor because I think it's a nice reminder for all of us to, like, a lot of us, you know, try to take very serious photos, and that's great and that's important. You know, like the whole point of this is, you know, take it seriously because yeah, we're taking photos of toys, but it should be a serious thing. But also rewind a little bit, and we're taking photos of toys, and it should be fun sometimes too. And I think you do such a great job with like that balance. Like you're willing to, you take the serious photos, you have the serious dios, you make these like, you know, elaborate scenes, but you're still willing to throw this on there, and it's cute, it's hilarious, it's great, and I love that. I love that. Is this another just like a custom, like independent figure, or did you get this from somewhere?
No, actually, so maybe you're giving me too much credit again. Actually, there's been these Lucasfilm holiday specials
Oh yeah.
released by Hasbro and I think in the 90s, and they had like 3 sets. The Santa Yoda, they have the R2D2 C3PO. They're all based on McQuarrie cards that were sent within Lucasfilm for
That's
the
so
holiday.
cute.
And
Very
some 20 years
cool.
later, they had those Hasbro specials, like 3 years in a row. You could buy them, and if you actually look at the actual post and slide, you'll see that this is more or less a recreation of the card back art that comes with the figure.
Okay.
So it's Yoda losing all his presents while walking around in the woods.
Like you would.
And I posted these around Christmas this year, and I sort of recreated all 3 of them
Yeah.
with the respective figures, just to be showing off that I sort of have all of the figures, even those weird little
The
special
weird ones. That's amazing. That's amazing.
It's cool that you went to like recreate them too, because it's like something you remember and something you're gonna remember forever because you have these little things. And I always like your little titles. I left it up there on this one because it just says Christmas, so
Yeah.
it's left their location. It's a lot of fun. And to Scott's point, you could have just made a huge like you could have put Christmas lights or something in your dio and just had him doing that. You actually went back and like, you know, honored the property and honored your love for the series, so it's very cool. I saw the R2D2 with the horns, the antlers, because he's so cute. So I almost picked that one, but Yoda won in the end. So this is the point, and this is where we're gonna get a little transition where I picked an image, and so for our Lord of Thane shots from your most recent
Oh my
ones,
gosh.
I really liked this one. And if we're gonna do fall themed, I was thinking of something like a bit of an orangier color, and this
Warmer.
one's out. Is this outside? Actually, now that I think about it.
No.
See, you
This
tricked
is-
me.
This is what do you call them? A digirama?
Digirama, yeah.
Yeah. So the picture back there is I took in Namibia when we were on holiday, and it's my screen. And it's another example of what the community does. I think it's a guy called Layer Creations who 3D prints these ITTs from Mando season 2,
Yeah.
and it's a huge. It comes. You have to assemble it and you have to paint it, but it's as huge as the TVC ITT that was available, and you can
Wow.
sit 6 people, and you have the gun turret, and it moves, and the doors open up and close, and all the guns move and swivel. It's just a perfect piece. It could be by Hasbro with no problems at all. And yeah, did you find this kind of stuff out there with all the great guys in the community?
This
Jeez.
is awesome. Great use of a digital backdrop, and it's like, yeah, I absolutely adore this. And again, your range is really fascinating. Like your photographic range, like you definitely are capable of a lot of different styles. It's really interesting, and I love that you're below the trooper, kind of looking upwards towards it, and it's just really a fantastic image. But yeah, it's interesting that, like, as a world creator, you're also, into the artistic element, because I don't know if there are people out there who can create dioramas and sets and scenes and stuff, but they don't necessarily know how to capture it. They don't know how to make it translate into an image. And I feel like this is always a great test of if somebody is capable of turning something into an image, is when they're using very little. Like you're using a screen, a prop, a figure, and you create a really stunning image. So, like, the fact that you can do that is just, it's such a clear testament to you being able to do that with, when you have all the tools you could possibly want to use to create something. So, really great shot.
Thank you.
You ready for Scott's?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yep, there it is. Oh, so much fun. I was so happy to like I said, I have been wanting to start doing this kind of stuff, and you are truly a huge reason for that. And yeah, when this was coming up, I was like, all right, let's do it. It's time to build. We're gonna make it happen. And I just started putting all kinds of random things together. That was just like a broken piece of plexiglass that I painted and then put some LEDs behind it. And again, a lot of that stuff is just the little like ridgy, like right at Boba Fett's like ankle level. That's just a piece of a like a belt for one of the machines at work. It's a broken belt. And so I just glued it up there and then painted it and tried to make it look like almost like a base molding type thing. And then yeah, that door is just, it's a piece of like a soda shelf for soda cans. So it was really fun. I tried to get into your creative head space, like the idea of, again, making a world and putting characters in it, and it was so much fun. So much freaking fun. I need to do it more. So thank you for forcing me to do this.
You're very welcome. As you said, you spend you spend the whole nights doing it.
Yeah.
That's something that happens to me very often, because yeah, just put some things together and then it looks good, and as you said, you give it a base coat, and yeah, it turns out fine, and then the real work begins, where you go, okay, now I need to paint it, and then you find, okay, maybe there should be a wire there, or maybe there should be another greavy there,
Yes.
and then you have another idea, goes, okay, there should be, I don't know, a corner right here. And so basically, in my experience, when I think, okay, now I'm almost done, I'm not even halfway through
Yeah.
with the time that really goes into it.
And that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to over time adding more to this and like putting more
This is
things on it.
amazing. And
So-
I personally love the idea you wrote in your caption that
Oh.
bringing a piece of a stormtrooper gives you free drinks.
Yeah.
That's really.
I was like, how weird can we get this? And then I was like, and then of course Boba Fett's gonna show up with an entire stormtrooper just to be like,
Okay,
just
free
be like,
drinks for
where are
life.
my drinks? Here's the body. Like, oh god. Like,
Free drinks for life. Okay,
Mhm.
here you go.
Those poor stormtroopers.
yeah, I know. I do terrible things to stormtroopers. I got a few coming up soon where there's some pretty terrible things happening to stormtroopers. I'm gonna be posting.
Don't pity them at all.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Forget it. Yeah, it's
Aw.
great.
Okay, you ready for mine? Mine's ridiculous.
I'm so excited.
I ordered this figure just for this photo.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Wow.
Animal study. I love it. That makes me so happy. I'm happy, and I know Steph and you had talked about this already. I love that you went in more the direction of the creatures, and I went more in the direction of the dios, because like I think it would have been really difficult for both of us to capture everything about what you do, Angus. Like, I just don't think we could have done it, and so we did not plan this to go in like different. It just kind of ended up happening, and so I'm really happy that it worked out that way. Because yeah, there's so much to capture of your style, and getting to see this, where you're getting to experience it. It reminds me of that Mudhorn photo. Like it really, like it's got that feel, and
This is
yeah,
beautiful.
such a cool shot, stuff. This is so good.
Coming right at you. That's,
Oh, God,
Yeah.
I love it. I love
Your
it.
images are always
What-
like
what scale is that? What is
it's a
that?
micro machine. I
micro
tried to
machine,
go
is it? Right,
smaller so that I
Yeah,
could
no, it's
like,
perfect.
mimic your thing. I'm like, I can't get like a normal like 12th scale figure. It's not gonna work. And I'm kind of glad I did now after the insects talk. So that we're gonna like go down to the
Perfect.
smaller.
Super tiny.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all practical effects. You threw the earth, or how did you do
Yeah,
it?
I threw the dirt behind it. The yellow sun is a floaty from from my son's like wading pool outside. So I was like, I need some intense sunlight.
Yep.
And I was just like, I don't want it to be too much though. Your colors are a lot more vibrant than I normally go towards. So I took all that I could to add this much warmth.
This is
to photo.
significantly more vibrant than your normal stuff. It's great though. This is great. Oh my god, I love this.
And he's
Makes
like
me
real
so
hair,
happy.
which was my favorite thing ever about the little Bantha guy. He was so cute.
So cool.
Hmm.
I don't think I have a bunch of the micro machines. I don't think I've seen this. Like,
Same here. I'm not a collector, but I have
Yeah.
some. But I've never seen the actual hair panther. That's really
this micro machines is actually what I started with. That was how I got into toy photography, because I did
okay.
it with my phone one day during quarantine. I was just bored, and I was like, I need to go do something. So I just started taking photos of stormtroopers like stealing toilet paper or something like that, and
Cool.
and then it just continued. So seeing this is like making me want to pull the micro machines out again. This
I
is
have
great.
don't
I
know
have
what-
a rabbit in our backyard. We have a hutch and everything, and she kept trying to hop around me while I was doing this.
That's
Too.
amazing.
I'm like, I don't need a giant bunny in the photo. Like, come here.
That might have been hilarious.
I'm gonna wrangle you. So yeah, but the way you do take photos is like a nature's expedition too. When you do the creature ones,
Yeah.
like the way that you explained it now, it makes so much more sense. The angling that you choose, because it's almost like running by and taking photos of like tigers while they're doing their thing and then running away, or because it's like it is very up close, but you're almost like in the heart of it, like on an extra expedition, which would be it's very cool.
Yeah, when I see your photos, especially like Steph said with these animal studies, like the creature studies, it's like now after talking about it, I'm gonna start hearing David Attenborough talking like while I'm looking at them, and it's gonna make it so great. Like it's gonna be so good because that's all I'm gonna be able to focus on. So
I usually try to sort of copy some information on the beasts from Wikipedia.
yeah,
So
Mhm.
just read the caption in David Attenborough's voice.
in his voice, it's perfect. No, and that again, I want to reiterate that is what you write in your the actual caption. I feel like, I really try to read people's captions a lot. I know we live in a busy world. We're all crazy all the time. I've been extra crazy the last few months. I know that. But like, I think taking the time to read about it, I think that's why I felt this need to write this extremely long, like for each photo, this just keep on going with it, because it was like, I think we need to remind each other to sit back once in a while and read something fun like that, and not just be the reactive, like scroll, click, scroll, click, scroll, click. Like, take the time, see what it is, because there is something really fun about that. And if you are a Star Wars fan, like, you know, people listening, like, it it sounds silly, but you might actually like get like fun information about a particular creature like off of your page. You know, like if you're taking stuff straight from Wikipedia, like that's canon mostly. So it's like, you know, there's information there. Have fun with it. Like, and I think you know, hearing people's stories, hearing what they intend, you know, yeah, it's fun to like open stuff up for interpretation, but it's also fun to give people a very specific explanation for what is going on in a scene, because, you know, that's part of the storytelling too. So I really love what you do with that. That's cool too. That's really cool.
Your
That
depth
was
of
lucky.
field is like.
Is this
It's
like on a
amazing.
model train set or something?
Yeah, exactly. I was quite lucky. A couple of weeks ago, my son, he asked as a birthday present for me to take him to Switzerland because there's this huge indoor skating
Yeah.
park. And I said, okay, I'll take you and a friend. And I took my camper van and some figures, because you know you have to spend the day
Yeah.
or 2 days actually while they're skating. And so I took quite a few pictures in the city. And but right on the campground they had this massive, I think it was like 20 by 10 meters or something, um, uh, outdoor railroad track with a lot of buildings and bridges, in the
Huh.
perfect scale for the 1/18th scale. But
Yeah.
he was pretty not well. He didn't like the idea of me venturing in there and actually taking a picture in the church or whatever. So all he allowed me to take pictures from what I could reach from the outside of the actual thing,
That
and that
works.
was only this double bridge was reachable. But
Aw.
yeah, it's amazing because it's been sitting outside for at least 10 years, I'd say, and it's got all this little moss and algae and grass growing on the actual tracks, which makes it look so real.
That is
I'm
so cool.
really lucky to find that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful image too. And one, this is Scott always asks this, and I was like I was gonna wait for him. This is one you could frame, you could put it up like easily.
Yeah.
Like it'd be really cool to have.
Print it out.
Yeah,
That would look
so
good.
cool.
It'd look really good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Angus,
All
like,
right.
seriously, we probably could have talked for more than an hour, like easily. We probably could have gone on for like
You
3
didn't
hours.
even start
I
nerding on Star Wars.
I know, I know. Like I sit here and I laugh sometimes. Like there are just sometimes we get on this podcast, I just like imagine we could just go on and on and on for days. But it's thank you seriously for coming on here. Um, it was really a pleasure getting to actually talk to you again. I followed you for so long, and Instagram, you know, it's great, gets you so far, but like real conversations are super
Yeah.
important. And you know, everybody, please go follow this account. Like, follow this account. Like, if you're not following this account, you're missing out on something that's really interesting and unique and fun. And I know I've shouted you out when I've been on other podcasts and stuff too, because it really is. You do something special. You do something that is unique. It's fun. You know, I feel like it's, and you don't just have to be a Star Wars fan to appreciate it. There's a lot there, and so yeah, so really thank you for coming on here and chatting with us and spending some time, because it was great. Yeah, that's awesome. That's it. That's all I got. That's all I got, except for the fact that I'm probably gonna keep babbling for a while.
Thank you so much for having me again, and enjoyed it a lot, and I'm sure looking forward to see expansions on your diorama then.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, we'll keep going. See how it goes.
Yeah. Thanks
Gotta
for
hold myself
starting this
accountable.
new obsession for Scott now. 'cause
Yeah.
it's
My
like-
basement's gonna turn into a new space. It's like all of
Yeah,
a sudden
it's
people are gonna
just
come down here and be like what we were talking about with like 6-inch, like
Yeah.
that's what's gonna end up happening. I'm gonna have to put like gigantic shelves in here, and there's just gonna be like hallways all over.
You get
No.
SOS texts from your wife.
For my
Please come
wife,
save him. He has
please
left the
get this stuff
basement.
out of here. I can't even like get down there to get the laundry anymore. I think I talked about that on like the last podcast. Like I'm like, no, nobody goes down there to get laundry. It's just me. Like just me.
Mhm.
At this point, nobody comes down here. I've invaded it 100%.
yeah,
But,
this was meant to be our guest room when we first, but
Mhm.
now you have to be okay with a couple of thousand probably figures staring at you.
Yeah, and that's fair. If you're somebody's guest, like, sorry, you just have to embrace their house for what it
Yeah.
is. So that's my opinion. I mean, I remember growing up, my parents, when people would come over, they would stay in my room. I would sleep in the living room, and guests would stay in my bedroom. And my bedroom was crazy. It was just Star Wars and metal posters everywhere. So it was like you were not going to have a normal night's sleep in that room. So.
That's insane. All right. Well, Angus, I'm gonna close us out here in a little bit. And
But
say,
you don't
Angus,
actually
thank you
disappear.
again. Thank you. You're not gonna disappear. I promise. It's not gonna say live anymore. So we're gonna hit the button.
Yay, the button.
Well, y'all, thank you for listening to another wonderful episode of the combined SBN F-Stop Rebel podcast. Truly a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed everything. Remember, please do not grow up. It's a waste of time. I am Scott, F-Stop Rebel, and there's obviously Steff.
Yep, I'm still here, and you can find me at Slag My Thrilla or the SBN. You'll see all the credits on the end, but I always want to say, just guys, stay awesome and keep it up.